We are live, gentlemen. Welcome everybody to Digitize HQ. This is our inaugural kickoff, and we want to welcome lots of voices, lots of people to come into the Digitize HQ community. It's a free membership community, and we talk all things digital enablement from the C-suite to the front lines. So I want to just introduce my two colleagues, co-hosts, whatever the heck we are. Today we got Thomas Ross and Robert Caruso. Guys, welcome to Digitize HQ.
Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to this. Yeah.
And it was really Thomas's idea to call it Digitize HQ too.
Well, we all worked on it. We all pounded away at what was going to come out, and that just happened to come out of me on that occasion.
Yeah, it's good. I like it. Thomas, why don't you want to share with everybody like why Digitize HQ and why now?
Yeah, so I mean, Digitize HQ is really all about digital transformations, but as it relates to how we can actually fundamentally help companies utilize digital in a cost-effective and productive way that makes the difference for them in their marketplace. Is that fair?
I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's fair. And what I love about this community too is that we'll have marketers' perspectives, C-suite perspectives, sales professionals' perspectives. And Robert, would you tell us a little bit about your background and your digital marketing background and why this is an important topic to you right now?
Yeah, it's important to us. First of all, I'm Robert. I'm the CEO of Engage Digital Inc. Most people know me as Fondalo online, but it's important to us because we take over and manage our clients' entire digital footprint. So all of their online presence, their website, their digital marketing, everything. And we integrated everything together and so it works together and is effective. But at the end of the day, when we work with mid-size, local, regional, national brands, a lot of times, right, they haven't even begun digital transformation. We have clients that don't check their email often, and so on. So it's important to us because everything that we do impacts the brand and its success. But if our clients and their brands aren't digitally transforming and getting current with capabilities, tactics, tools, technologies, etc., if they're not remaining current, it limits what we can do for them. So we're totally on board with what's going on with Digitize HQ.
Yeah. And I like one of the kind of sayings, I guess, that I've said a lot is I've looked at how we use digital strategies and systems to empower the team. And my focus has always been more front end, right? Sales, customer success, HR. As my CEO hat, I obviously have cared about production and supply chain and everything else, but my real focus expertise has been on the front end. And I like to say it's all about how do we enable and equip the team to use digital. What do you guys think about that?
Well, yeah, I think that's exactly right. The problem with the term digital is it covers such a wide scope of topics, and what we need to help people and organizations is how it's important to them, right? And no two companies are the same, and they have different goals and different perspectives, as you rightly spoke about, whether it's sales oriented or customer experience oriented or user experience or production or procurement and logistics. All of those things can be digitized, but that's not what's relevant. What's relevant is what is your priority and why, and where are you now, vis-a-vis what you've done with respect to that priority. And if you haven't had an opportunity to do those things yet, then that's what we want to help with and talk about and really focus on. Because the idea that any company can suddenly, from today to the end of this week or the end of next week, become digitally transformed is both short-sighted and maybe a little silly. You know, you really do have to start with the goals that are in front of you as a company, and then bring in the digital opportunities to help get there quicker, more cost effectively, and in a much more successful way. What would you say, Robert?
Yeah, there's no question about it. You know, it's, you know, digital transformation is really a combination of a change in thinking within the organization, a commitment to that change in thinking, applying appropriate technologies that integrate, and then, you know, managing the tactics around how it integrates across the board from you know, the executive team all the way down to the front lines, sales, marketing, etc. It's just, that's where it is. And a lot of times, as you well mentioned there, that, you know, from the top, you know, they understand that changes need to be made, but they really haven't bought into the ideology of digital transformation. And what they are typically seeing when we come across those brands is a decline in their effectiveness online. And it's and we can address that, and we do address that for our clients, but oftentimes it's not the actual problem. It's a symptom that has to be treated, but the actual problem resides within the mentality and the lack of execution or understanding to execute across the board of the organization. It's just showing up in a lack of results online anymore.
Yeah, you know, that it reminds me of, are you guys getting a lot of feedback with me?
No.
Getting a little bit.
Okay.
I got a little bit there, but.
Okay. So it reminds me, I listened to a few days ago, it was the podcast, The Brutal Truth of Selling. Like most people have heard of it or have listened to it once or twice. And he had a guest on, they were talking about how companies will, you know, like a CEO, as they were saying, would come in and say, okay, we want to do an ABM strategy. And they would say, okay, well, what we need to start taking a look at is who's your ideal customer and why is it they're going to, you know, they start going into the depths of creating out the strategy around it. And he gave this example of a CEO said, well, no, I thought we were just going to buy some technology, some ABM technology and implement it. And when I heard that, it was such the example, I think, of so much of the conversations I've been able to be a part of or listen to, is that, you know, we're just going to buy technology and all of a sudden we're going to have this digital transformation. And that's why for me, I like that I don't know, I guess the combination of, yeah, let's talk about digital transformation, or where digital can change or help or make it more efficient or, you know, be better for your company. But I like differentiating digital enablement, because enablement for me is, how do we actually make sure that we're using any of these digital tools strategically and the right way and consistently. It's not just plug in a new software and off we go.
I would add to that. I would say that tools without mindset is the same negative result as mindset without tools, right? So you can have a belief in digitally transforming your organization, top down, middle up, middle down, whatever it happens to be within your organization. But at the end of the day, if you're not implementing the right technologies and tools to achieve digital transformation, or vice versa, if you're throwing technology at a digital transformation you don't understand, haven't bought into, and don't recognize the impacts it has across the organization, you're going to end up with the similar result as doing nothing.
Yeah,
it might even be more negative, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think it's, I mean, this offline example on the same podcast I was listening to, the guy said in his first job, sales job in college, hadn't even finished college yet. He was doing sales for a radio station, and they basically said, "Okay, you're hired," and handed him the white pages for anybody that remembers the white pages, and gave him a desk with the phone and said, "Go sell." And as much as we laugh at that now, I do still think that there are very similar type of, lack of strategy, if you will, that's, hey, here's this new technology. We're going to teach you how to push the buttons and make things happen, but they don't necessarily train the strategy behind it. Is that kind of what you were saying, Robert?
No question. I've said it differently. In my feeds online, something to the effect of, if you continue to do what you've always done online, you're going to continue to get diminishing results.
You know what I find so we've talked about this before in different forums, of course, but people are already doing many of the things that we want them to do in their organization, but they're doing them on a personal basis. So when people use LinkedIn and they use Facebook and they use different social and digital channels, they are using Slack perhaps, and they're using some of these tools. What they fail to realize and understand is that, in fact, those are among the digital tools that when they use properly and on purpose, right, as a focus tool within the organization, and rather than just personally, now they can have some of those impacts that they've been missing, right? And so many people are online using these tools, but they're doing so poorly.
Yes.
And not getting the impact.
Yes.
And so I think if we go and we buy this massive digital ERP platform or whatever it might be, and it doesn't matter whose, because it's not about the brand that they choose, but rather how they're actually going to use or not the tool that it represents. And in most cases, they don't, right?
Yeah.
So they end up buying something that they weren't using properly in the first place otherwise, and therefore it becomes a bigger, much more expensive mess than it was before they did it. So you really got to understand what it is you want to do first, and what digital means for you, rather than what you read in that last article from Forbes.
Yeah, and it just, I popped this up on screen because it's, and I can't see who it is. Anyone on Facebook, if you're watching, you got to opt in on StreamYard. We'll have to add that link in there so that we can see who you are. But I think, what's that?
And thank them for
thank them. But you're right. Too many times we confuse digitization as lowering the labor cost, and it reminds me of many conversations I've had, especially recently, I think, with $100 million companies, $50 million companies, even some $200 million companies going, "Oh, we're going to go get a CRM now." Like, okay, why? Well, we need a CRM. Okay, great. Why?
For what?
Right. Because CRM without strategy isn't that valuable to you. In fact, I mean, I think there's a lot of companies that have Salesforce installed that either barely scratch the surface or don't really use it at all.
Or even worse, right? It isn't the solution they needed for various reasons. They implemented the solution. They're wasting massive amounts of time and resources of their people, forcing them to follow some process that isn't helping move the needle. That's, my opinion, even worse. But back to what Thomas was saying about the different platforms and tools and using them properly and so on. I want to make sure that anything that we do on these is, we don't just tell people what you're doing is wrong, or what you've been doing is wrong, or if you're not doing this, you're not smart. What I'd like to do is give them some practical things that help them wrap their brain around what we mean when we're talking about some of these things. So I'll just cover something real quick. So when if I'm doing a speaking event, or I'm having a consulting meeting with a client, or I'm doing some training with a client, what I try to explain to them about social and social selling in a nutshell so they can wrap their brain around it. It's whatever you would typically do offline, you want to do online. And anything that you would typically not do offline, don't you dare do it online. So an example I give, if you walk into a networking event, you walk in with your bullhorn and go, hey guys, I'm here. My name's Robert. We do digital marketing for brands all across the country. We take over their entire digital footprint and make it effective. I'm right over here. If you'd like to go to my website, it's fondalo.com. And who wants my business card? We would never do that.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
We go on LinkedIn, we go on Twitter, we go on Facebook, we connect with somebody we've never spoken to before. We've provided zero value to them yet. We've had no conversation to establish any kind of relationship. And we say, hey, by the way, this is what I do. Here's a link to my calendar. Let's schedule a call. Wrong. You would never do that in the real world. So what you need to understand about the digitized version of networking is you can do it 10,000 times faster with 10,000 more people, but you still have to do it the same way. You build relationships, you ask about other people, you get to know them as individuals, and they will ask you, what do you do? Because the bottom line is this sums it all up. People hang around people like them, relate to people like them, and buy from people they know and like. Your job outside of digital is to do those things.
So I'm going to hide that. I'm going to hide that comment for a second. Robert,
Okay.
how would you then explain people that say, oh, anyone that says you need to have a relationship in sales is wrong. You don't need to have a relationship with the buyer to sell. How would you answer that?
Well, I mean, that's probably true. You know, if you're selling hose bibs, you know, and, you know, faucet nozzles, sure, it's place and time, need, and done. They don't care. But if you're selling some software platform application, if you're selling some HR solution, if you're selling something that is a B2B environment sale, the fact is, if you just look at the data, buyers are telling you that, especially since, you know, the whole COVID, I call it the scamdemic, you call it whatever you want, since that, buyers have completely transformed what they want. They're not open to the bullhorn pitch anymore. What they want is somebody who knows what they're talking about, that can answer the questions, not about the product the salesperson's selling, but the problems and challenges that the buyer is experiencing, and provide them with information and such that helps them in their buyer's journey, and through that process come to trust that individual as somebody that has the information that can be helpful. Now, in my world, I call that a relationship. I don't trust anybody. I don't have a relationship until they earn it. And once they've earned my trust, then I consider that to be a relationship.
And how, like this comment, and I'm sorry, I don't know who said it. I wish I did. Coming in on Facebook, digitization puts a huge gap in the personal side of selling. What do you guys think about that? I think that's completely erroneous, in my opinion. I think it's just the opposite. But what do you two think?
Well, that may be simply a, and again, it's common, is a misunderstanding of the term.
Yeah.
Right. So people think digitization is automation, right? And I would agree with that comment in that context. So if you said automation can put a gap between, I would totally agree with that.
There you go.
So I think it's simply a misunderstanding of the term. Digitization, on the other hand, is not that at all, because what digitization really represents is social, and the social connection that we can create with people.
And just to clarify, Thomas, I'm going to interrupt, because it's not social media, it's social, at the true sense of the word social.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And that's where, again, another area where people get mixed up in terminology, right?
For
So
sure.
social media gets so often confused, especially with leaders, as a picture of your lunch. And that doesn't have to be the case at all. You can
Yep.
certainly do that. Nobody's stopping you, but
Yep.
that doesn't really, help with respect to the growth of your business. That said, there are many social channels and many areas that we can use in social media that are crazy impactful for our business, whether it's LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter or Facebook group pages so there's so many different ways. That's not the question. The question is, are you building relationships?
Yes.
Are you creating conversations? Are
Yes.
you connecting with, and wait for it, people?
Yes, for sure. And I will, so now I'll take all of that and I'll put it into the small mom and pop company that's watching now, and they're trying to get their brain around some of these words and terminologies. So the point was made that digitization actually provides a negative impact on doing sales. And I forget the wording, but that's a brief summary of it. So if that was actually correct, then there would be no Facebook, there would be no LinkedIn, and there would be no Facebook pages, okay, or Facebook groups. So an example for that person watching that's trying to get their head around how do I use digital, make it personal, and so on, is, not only now does Engage Digital do work for clients around the world for what we do, but we've also started creating our own brands and doing what we do for clients for our own brands. And we have a brand that is here in Florida only, and we've done no advertising. All we've done is what we do for our clients. So we build relationships, we make connections, we don't pitch what we do. We provide information and things of value that are fun and interesting to our audience. And lo and behold, right? People reach out to me wanting the service that for the product and brand that we launched here in Florida. Why? People hang around people like them, relate to people like them, and buy from people they know and like. So get out there and see who they know and like.
Let's not forget the that process is generally they simply start asking questions.
Yes.
Right. So they reach out to you, Robert, and they say, "Hey, that was really a great point. How would that relate to this? And what do you think?" And the next thing you know, you got a conversation, because they don't say, "Robert, I want to buy whatever it is you're selling."
No.
They reach out to Robert and Brandon and myself, and of course others,
right,
and get into a conversation. But again, I really feel like that comment was more about automation.
Automation, yes. Yes.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because automation has a role, right? But that role needs to be very carefully defined. I like to talk about voicemail, right? Back in the day that voicemail first came in, and we started to take advantage of that because we didn't have to answer the phone anymore, right? So we would just let it go to voicemail. And we've all heard of the term voicemail. Heck, I was going to swear there, but I didn't. But we've all heard of that, right? And voicemail jail, and how you can get locked into that process and never actually speak to a human being. And then you throw automation even further into that, and now you're speaking to some kind of a system which is throwing you these different terms and asking you to say the right thing, so you go to the right next automated step. People hate that, right?
Yeah.
And they stay, and the more they see it, the more they stay away from it.
No question.
It's to the point now where you see a chat box that you don't recognize the type or style of it on a website, and you'll run away from it, and you'll click it off every time. Whereas if you understand it and you see that it's Messenger, for example, or it's even WhatsApp, you're familiar with that, so you're much more likely to do that. Or in the case of LinkedIn, where people are providing all these automated processes and systems, so that no sooner do you connect with them than boom, you get this automated sales pitch. In fact, the connection itself may have been automated. So that's what people push against. And I totally agree with that sentiment, if that's what
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whoever that was to come back and chime in if you meant something different or if that's exactly what you meant.
Sure.
Yeah. So the way I would put it to people with technology and digitization is, right, automate processes and things that aren't human, that don't require human stuff.
Right.
For example, right, the assembly line for cars, right? Automate as much of that doesn't require human, right? If you continued that automation and robots and so on all the way down to, answering my questions when I'm on the car lot, well, guess what? I'm going to the other place, right? I want to talk to somebody that understands and, oh, you have one of these. Great. What did this do? What did that do? Right? The second you try and automate those things, another example, we bought an ottoman from a certain well-known website that's not Amazon, by the way. And, the experience of purchasing it was all right. I got it all right. It was fine. But this is the fourth time this morning I had to go shut off some kind of automated email I was getting. I was getting 8 emails a week. Now, wait a sec. I already bought a damn ottoman. So somebody has put in automation without any human interaction to determine, does this make sense or not? And hey, we're getting sales from it. Well, yeah, but you're losing a lot of customers that will never buy from you again. So again, yes, automation and technology and digitization is awesome, but what you can't do is sell your soul to the automation god and expect that your business is going to succeed in today's environment. You have to have the human touch. You have to have conversations with other individuals, and that's where success comes.
No. So what is that? I think is that feedback all on me?
I'm not sure.
I don't hear any feedback.
Okay, well, it's all in my ears then. Must be too much turkey yesterday. But so one of the questions I get asked, and it's usually like, okay, quietly they'll say, I keep hearing this. Like, what do you mean? What does it mean to have online conversations? And Robert, I liked your negative example of going to a networking event with a bullhorn. Yeah. What is that positive, the right way of going to a networking event and starting conversations?
Yeah.
For both you guys, what does that look like in a digital world?
Well, it looks like what we're doing right now, doesn't it? Wherein we're having a live conversation and we've got people talking to us. You can do that in so many different formats. You can do it on Facebook. You can do it on LinkedIn. You can do it anywhere. One of the tools on LinkedIn now is you can actually go to a live video right in their messaging box and have a conversation with them in real time. That's what I love about the digital and the social world, is that everything is right now, right? Mm-hmm. It's real time. You can see what it did or didn't do, or whether or not you're hitting the right points with people when they ask questions, and you can have real people-to-people conversations like this and relate to people in a way that is helpful for them, because their circumstance and where they're coming from and their perspective and their understanding is different than somebody else's. Just like the individual who may have been using the term digitization in a way that wasn't synchronized with what we're talking about. People have a different perspective, and we have to help them understand, social isn't a picture of your lunch. Digital isn't just automation. All these things can work very, very well for you, but you need to understand why.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'd add to that too, that I love that, like, everything is now and they can ask questions and respond. But I think the part of the power of digital, because a live networking event is now too, but in digital, the amplification of the power is that this video that we're doing right now, this live, will actually stay recorded and be in all the places that we're streaming it forever. So if in 2 weeks from now, in a month from now, in 5 months from now, it doesn't matter, somebody else comes along and they're listening to it, and they throw a comment in there and ask a question, we can jump back into that conversation. Anyone can jump back into that conversation. So for me, when we talk about, go be social or have digital conversations, the power of it for me is the fact that they just don't go away. Right? Whether it's video, it's writing content, right? It's writing comments on other people's content. It stays there. And so somebody that shows up an hour later can still be involved in the conversation, and you can come back to it. We're in a live event or at a conference, you only have the people that are there right then and there.
In your memory of it, for sure.
In your memory of it. And when it's over. So if I leave the networking event at 9:30 and someone shows up at 9:45, I would never have that potential to interact with them. But in this digital environment, they could show up 2 years later and I could still have that interaction with them.
And let me expand on that as an example for people that are watching that don't necessarily understand some of the terms or execution of what we're talking about. At that networking event, I only know what you tell me or what my eyes can give me. In the digital realm, I see the pictures of your newborn. I see that you just went on vacation. I see where you work without talking to you yet. I see what your role is. I see comments that you've made on other things. And so I already can have a conversation different than the live networking event, or ask a question different than the live networking event from a different perspective. And the value in that, for example, again, here's an example, right? If I'm watching somebody's reel or their story across the social web, I can say, what a cute little puppy. So sweet. When did you get him? Has nothing to do with what we do here in Florida or what we do for our clients across the country. Has nothing to do with that. It's a conversation. Conversations build relationships over time. So it's a completely different perspective. There's no guard up like at a networking event. What do you do, right? What do you do, right? That's a beautiful puppy, right? Here's the thing that we know about humans. If you ask them about themselves and let them talk about themselves and things they do, things they like, things they work, things they blah, 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 an interesting thing will occur. From 99.7% of those individuals, if you do it long enough, interested clearly and authentically in them, guess what? 99.7% of those people are going to say, what do you do? Yep. It's a no-brainer. I mean, it's just a no-brainer. Just be nice.
I would take it one step further. The great thing about networking events, and by the way, even though networking events up until recently have slowed down or been stopped altogether because of the pandemic, etc., they're starting to come back, and they may not ever reach the usage that they did have. They're still important, right? Now, I was at a recent event, in fact, and here's something you can try when the next time you go to an event. Instead of giving people your business card, right, which we all know is going to go in a drawer or the garbage can or a pocket in a suit that's never accessed again, or somebody's purse that they never, you know where I'm going. Business cards have almost zero value today. Why don't you try this when you're talking to them, and while you're talking, hey, would you mind if I connect with you on LinkedIn while we're here, or on Facebook Messenger? This way we can chat a bit further in the future. And I'd love to be able to learn more about what you do and how you do it and your family and all those things. And it's extremely rare. In fact, I've never experienced anybody saying no to that, right? Now you've got a real connection, and that will actually have value when you leave that event, right? As opposed to the card and the pamphlets and the brochures that went in the garbage can, right? So digital has so much more value, and it's not like you throw out all the old ways that you used to do. You still use the phone. This thing does dial, right? And you still do those things that you do, but now you add in the digital world and you bring all these other elements to make it even more effective and create, as you so rightly put, Robert, relationships.
Yeah. I teach that the entire goal of your digital presence is to get it off digital. That's the whole goal.
Exactly.
Hello. Okay. And I don't care if you're local only, mom and pop, right? Let's say you're a local restaurant. What's the goal? Get it off digital and get you eating my food, butts and seats, right? That's the entire objective of a restaurant's marketing, butts and seats. Everything is measured by butts and seats, right? If you're selling B2B technology, what's the goal? Get it offline. You've got to have a conversation with them. You've got to have a one-on-one phone call with them, right? Yeah. So that's the whole goal of digital, but do it in a human-based way that is authentic, cares about them, not just you. Provide some selfless value in everything you do. Selfless, relevant value. Is it not pitching me? Is there value in it? Is there interest? Are they interested in it? For example, when I had my software company that was in the, it was a social media technology, I knew who my people were and they drank coffee. So what did I do? I became the #1 influencer in the world on the topic of coffee. Why? Does that have anything to do with social media? Only if you're a social media marketer. You drink a hell of a lot of coffee, right? So I made everything about coffee. And everyone gravitated to me, right? You want pictures with your coffee. You tell everyone you're at coffee, you're going to coffee, you're bought coffee, you're drinking coffee. Here's a picture, right? So know what your target audience is interested in. That's the content you share that is connecting with who they are as an individual. Again, for that business of mine, it was coffee, family, and anything technology and marketing related. That's what drove them when they're online. Ask yourself this. When my customer goes on Facebook, goes on LinkedIn, goes on whatever it is, what are the things, what are the topics they click like, share, or comment on? There's 5. I don't care what industry you're in, there's 5 of them. Figure out what those 5 are, make your feed those things. Then you earn the right to share something about you and what you do. And they'll see it because they're liking coffee, 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 family, dogs, coffee, dogs, family, pets, and then Florida, and then boom, there's your post about what you do.
Or they ask, so what do you do?
Yeah, Robert, what do you do? We've known each other for a year. You know, what do you do, by the way? I looked at your site. Thanks for asking. Or like I got actually the other day, you guys design logos too? Yep. What do you need? We don't only design logos because that's not going to make any money or make your online presence effective. But it's part of what we do as an overall strategy of integrated digital marketing for clients. But that's the whole goal, right? You know, get them to ask you. And then if you see somebody is a prospect of yours and they are selling or in an industry or a business that is something that benefits you, go do business with them. Do business with them. Go to their restaurant and eat.
And what I like about all that.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's all right. Go ahead, Thomas.
I was just going to say, I wanted to ask a question because, you know, we've been talking a whole bunch of different things and I wanted to kind of bring it together if we can. And the term that we've all used, and I think is really important if we put some definition around it, is digital enablement. So how do you digitally enable your team and your organization?
Yeah, and Thomas, that's what I was going to say too, is everything that we're talking about comes to, for me, and that's why I like this term, how do we equip and enable the team to therefore do it? And I think what we've talked about today is there's a lot of strategy that we talked about that takes strategic planning and then training to actually implement it. And then, there are some tools that you would need. So as example, Thomas, what you just said very simply is going to a live event and having, pull out your phone and say, can I connect with you on LinkedIn? Well, there's a little bit of training involved, right? You want to help people do that in the right way.
Sure.
And you got to make sure that they have a phone. You got to make sure that they're logged into LinkedIn, maybe even Sales Navigator. And I know that's a really easy example, and it shouldn't be something you really have to train, but it really is something that you have to train because a lot of people don't think about it. And the net result of that is if you go talk to 10 people at a live event or 20 people or 75 people at a 3-day conference, and you get them all connected to you on LinkedIn, and then the follow-up to that is, and now we're sharing content, back to what Robert said, 5 things that you talk about, right? Not you, me, brochure, but you talk about these things, and all of a sudden you've taken 75 people and maybe 20 of them become a voice that you talk to a lot. And then they get to that, so tell me what you do again. And I shared an article today, actually. I guess I wrote it a few days ago, but I shared it today about how we built an $18 million business without selling. And that was really the same premise, is that we built relationships, and then we had conversations that would go, so what do you guys do? And one of the examples I gave in there was at conferences, the night before the conference, throughout the conference, we were buying breakfasts, we were buying cocktails. We sponsored a group that was our ideal customer. And then one of the things that we found out through this association is that all of the members, they would have lunch or dinners covered for them through different things, but they never had breakfast covered. So we stepped up. We're like, okay, we're going to buy breakfast. We're going to do these breakfast buffets in a room that all your members can come and have breakfast for free.
Man, I'm hungry. Stop. Come on.
How can you be hungry after turkey yesterday? But then the training was, right? The training was, I want to get to that answer too. The training was, don't sell in the room. Just talk to people, meet with people. Where are you from? Can I get you another one of those? What did you like best, so we make sure that we have more of it tomorrow, right? And then what happened is, then when we were at the booth later in the day and they were walking, they go, oh, hey, and they'd walk into our booth and they'd chat and talk and laugh and everything, and then they'd go, hey, what do you guys do?
Exactly.
It wasn't hard, right? And then that night we're like, okay, now we're buying cocktails, right? And they would come and we would buy cocktails and we'd have fun and do all this stuff. And then the next day they would come back again and would go, oh my gosh, this has been so much fun. And they brought friends with them from other similar companies and say, oh, you need to talk to these guys.
Yeah.
And
it's good.
We sold by not selling.
Yep, for sure. Yeah. People hang around people like them, relate to people like them, buy from people they know and like. It's just, I mean, one of the fun things for us moving here to Florida, I knew everyone in Portland. Everyone knew who I was, right? I'd go out to eat and people would go, hey, are you Fondalo? I follow you on Twitter, all the time. Here, nobody knows me. So it's so fun, right? Because people are constantly going, Robert, what do you do? Oh, thanks for asking, right? So it's been real fun. But yeah, it's because, if somebody needs help, I'm the first one to say, hey, I'll be there. And it's not a manipulation thing. It's just if your heart's right, your activity will be good. It's just simple, right? And then when you establish those relationships and somebody's online and says, hey, who do I call for what you call? Everybody tags me, right? Because they know.
I want to, this just popped up on my phone, and I don't know if anyone's going to be able to see it, but this is, I think, why digital is so important right now. This just popped up. Mm-hmm. Stocks have dropped. The stock market dropped 1,000 points on a new COVID variant out of South Africa. We can't keep hoping and believing, oh, next year it's going to be normal. Next year it's going to be normal.
This is normal now.
Right. And even if we were going back to normal, the normal protocol in businesses should be, if we can do something faster, cheaper, better, more profitable, we should be testing it against our current status quo. And I propose that with digital, and why I'm so passionate about digital for businesses, especially my own, is because it's the most efficient way to grow a company. I mean, those examples I was just giving was flying a bunch of people to a conference, paying for a bunch of hotel rooms, paying for my team to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and drinks and entertainment budgets and all that. And now we can train them to do it here in something very, very similar. And by the way, if anybody does like an online bourbon tasting or an online wine tasting as a networking event, send me an invite. I want in.
I love it. You know, everything that we're talking about is certainly all about those different things. But at the end of the day, it's also the end user. It's creating frictionless experiences for that end user, right? So let's look at how many restaurants don't exist anymore when the pandemic occurred. They're gone. Why?
Yeah.
Because they didn't plan or execute a frictionless experience for their customers digitally before the pandemic. Right. Now let's look at, of those restaurants that are left that did not have online ordering, mobile pickup, blah, 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 before the pandemic, definitely have it now, right?
Yes.
The ones that exist still, they have it, right?
Yeah.
And it's an interesting shift that you have to look at. Now that's a consumer-based side, but here's what you have to understand. And a lot of B2B brands don't make these same connections. They think B2B people is their target audience. They're only on LinkedIn. What? Right. No,
right.
No, they're on Facebook also.
And Instagram.
And Instagram.
Oh, sure.
Right? And Snapchat, because their kids
and
are
Twitter,
on Snapchat.
And whatever it is.
Right? So at the end of the day, you have to understand that the paradigm shift has already occurred. And you've got to remove friction between you and the customer. And that starts with inside your organization operationally, digitally transforming, through to your people, and through to the experience that your customer has on the outside. What shift has occurred with the world, right? And is your experience of communicating, building relationships, and selling them, has it shifted as well in ways that are tangible to the process and the user experience?
Right.
You said an awful lot, Robert.
Sorry.
Just a few sentences. You said more than you think. Maybe, I don't know, but that was pretty impressive.
You're so good at making me feel good, Thomas.
No, not at all. You said a ton there. Let me see if I can unpack a little bit. One of the things that you said there was that every company, whether they be that restaurant, yep, or whether they be B2B, or whether they sell shoes, it doesn't really matter what they do. Maybe they manufacture products of various kinds and they have distributors. It doesn't matter, right? They can and use digital and social in a way that's impactful for them and the experience, because you said that so beautifully, that they need to create for their customers. Are your customers, with every question they have, emailing you? No, they're not, right? And they're certainly not waiting 3 days for your technical team to get back with the email, right?
And they may not even be asking you in any way, shape, or form. They could be asking other people.
This is the thing. We tell many customers, take one of your top questions that your customers ask you on a regular basis. What is that? Blah, blah, blah. Now put it into Google and ask that question in Google, because that's what your customers are doing, right?
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Now, what came up? Are you on that first page? Because there's where you do or don't exist as a company in the next 12 months.
And not only that, and not only that, Thomas, what are the questions that they all have that are your target audience that has nothing to do with your industry, has nothing to do with your brand or product or service? You still need to answer those questions for them on your blog.
Yeah.
Simple.
In an open communication, yes.
Right. What are those 5 things? What are those 5 things that drive your customer?
I keep coming back to, well, I just keep coming back to this, and it's similar to what those 5. This is my notebook.
What's that?
It says content and questions.
What's a notebook?
I love writing. I still love writing with a pen and paper.
I
do. I know you are, and that's okay. I still love it. It helps me think, maybe because I'm old and I've done it for so long. But the point of that
young people do a lot of it too.
Yeah,
a lot of people do.
Yeah, you know, my oldest daughter, she handwrites on her iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it saves it digitally, but she loves it. But my point of this is like the core of our business. It's content and questions. Anytime I hear a question that our customers are asking, I write it down. And then say, we got to go answer these questions. Number one, it makes it super easy for me when I go, oh, I got to write an article today. I don't go, oh, what should I write? I know, I just go answer anything out of here, and it's good content.
For those watching, again, so this is Robert putting it in context for you, okay? So one of our Florida clients does business in Florida, and their target audience are Florida homeowners, okay? So today, our team published a blog, the strangest and funniest Florida man stories you've never heard. Has nothing to do with,
and there's some funny ones too.
There's some funny ones, right? But at the end of the day, it shows a human face of the brand. It says you're interested in this, so are we. We're the same. You and I are the same. We're the same. We hang around the same people. We do the same things. We like the same things. We're interested in the same things, and so on. So, you know, it doesn't have to just be, you know, great ways to drive traffic to your Facebook page as a blog post, right? Because you do marketing, right? It's what are the other things that your audience still, their challenges they have, their questions they have, their interests that they have, and so on. And the last thing I'll throw into all this that we haven't touched on that I always cover because it's so important, humor.
Yes.
Humor. What's the content, videos, and so on that get the most amount of traffic? It's humor. Don't take your brand or yourself too seriously. You know, people love to smile and laugh. And when you're having a bad day and a brand that you're connected with puts something out that makes you giggle, you're going to have a special affinity for that brand moving forward. Don't be afraid to be fun.
And that speaks to your example, Robert, of what you did with coffee.
Yeah, for sure.
Part of my current one, and I'll just, you know, pull the, you know, go open Komodo a bit here. You know, I do have 5 kids and I love dad jokes, but the reason I put dad jokes out front and center with so much is because our ideal customers tend to be CEOs or C-suite or family-run businesses who are super busy. They try to do their life, family life, business life balance while trying to do the best that they can, the most efficient that they can with their businesses.
Yep.
And so that's everything I've tried to do with, and this isn't a personal plug. I don't really mean it that way. This is just
an example.
This is more of an example, right? So I have a book that I wrote on 99 Powerful Questions for Business Owners and Leaders. And then I have dad jokes that's a part of my content.
Yeah.
And it's been amazing to me how many people I will connect with around dad jokes. And they happen to be in the C-suite of a company they started or a company that they took over. And they have kids and I have kids, and we relate on so many levels. And then eventually it's like, well, what do you guys do exactly? Or I'll even say, how can I help you? Like, what do you guys do? How can I help you? And I love what you said, Robert. This isn't manipulative. When that's really who you are and the
Yeah.
way you choose to show up in life,
Yes.
then it's just very organic. It's very natural. And sometimes people come into my life and I do a lot and help them, and they
Yep.
never buy or do anything for me. And that's okay, because
Yeah.
I know there's other people that have come in and they bought from me and I was never really able to help them. It's
I
all
just got a
good.
text on that point. I just got a text. Hey, Robert, I could use some help around 2 p.m. if you're around to come meet me and help me. And I'll
Right.
be there. And they know I'll be there. Right. And it has to be from authentic. Yeah. You can't, pretend to be caring about people. If you don't care about people, it's going to show, because you're going to put your foot in their mouth big time.
Yeah. I had to throw this up here from Khalil.
Laughing is leverage. That's
Laughing
good.
is leverage. And that's, I mean,
So
you're spot on. I mean, I think we live in a culture that likes to be entertained.
Yeah, you got to keep it interesting. You got to keep people involved, and people relate, especially to the dad jokes. And I don't get it all the time because they're really bad. But
Hey, Thomas, do you know why the older woman fell in the well?
I do not.
Because she didn't see that well.
Oh, they get worse.
They get worse.
I know you know my father, Brandon, and I've got to tell you, if you two ever hang out together around me, I think I will leave. Because those are the kinds of things, the puns he says repeatedly.
The whole goal is to make the whole goal is to make your kids' eyeballs roll back, right? And if you've done that, you've succeeded.
That's right. That's right. Well, Robert, tell Pops I'll be glad to sit around and tell dad jokes with him, as long as there's homemade Italian food and good Italian wine, and Pops is there, I'm in.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, he's my best buddy. I love that guy. He's pretty cool.
Look at Khalil. All you guys laughed. I'll send the invoice. I love it.
He's gonna send the invoice. Cool. Awesome.
All right. Well, hey guys, this is our first episode for DigitizeHQ. What'd you think? Are we on track?
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, hopefully it provides value, and people that are watching it actually have aha moments and take away from it something that they can actually use, because now they understand. That's huge.
Yeah, and ask questions and say things that they may not fully understand, right? So that we can help with that, and vice versa. Because so many times somebody will say something that we didn't think of, and we didn't have that perspective. And it's all learning. If you're not learning through every one of these and every conversation, then you're doing it wrong, right? So I couldn't.
And I'd like to add is that DigitizeHQ is not our community; it's our community. And so everybody, if you're watching, you're listening. Number one, you have questions, pop them in the comments. I don't care if you're not watching it live, put them in there and let's get them on a future live. And if you want to be on with us and talk about one of these topics, let us know. Go join DigitizeHQ on LinkedIn or Facebook. And by the way, DigitizeHQ with the free membership is coming sometime next quarter. And that'll be another place where everybody can interact. But I just want to make sure people understand this isn't us trying to talk to them. This is us trying to talk with them. And so bring your questions, bring your topics, tell us others that you think should be on here, because we know a few things, but we don't know everything. And we want others that know some stuff around digital enablement and digital transformation to come join us for sure.
Absolutely.
So Thomas or Robert, anything you want to say to end it and bring this thing home?
I'm good, but thank you. I just want to thank everybody for their time. And we very much appreciate that. And we'll look forward to many more of these.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm going to go enjoy the 75 degrees here in Florida. And I hope the rest of you are handling it okay.
We had to stick that in there.
Yeah, I think I'm probably going to end the podcast before I say bad words about Robert. There is one thing I miss about being a Southern Californian. and it is the weather. But that's okay. All right, everybody. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. Thank you, Khalil. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, anonymous Facebook user who's jumped in. Really appreciate you for joining us, and keep coming in and sharing more questions and comments. And we'll see y'all next time, next Friday, same time, same place, same bat channel.
Sounds good. God bless, guys.
Bye, everybody.
I hope everybody had a happy and have a good week.